Good night, everybody. How are you today? I hope you're well. Today we are going to learn about passive voice and how to use it. So we are going to see what exactly is passive voice. So we have that passive voice in a passive constructions, of course, when you make the object of an action into the subject of a sentence. That is, whoever or whatever is performing the action is not the grammatical subject of the sentence. Take a look at this passive rephrasing of a familiar joke. Why was the road crossed by the chicken? Okay, so here we have an example of passive voice, because we all have heard that sentence that says, why the chicken crossed the road, right? So now here we can see that the road becomes the subject. So it says, why was the road crossed by the chicken? So we are going to see it deeply. We have active versus passive voice. As we can see here, the subject in the sentence, why was the road crossed by the chicken? The road becomes the subject who receives the action, and the chicken becomes the performer of the action. So we will see some examples. Here we have the active sentence. The chicken crossed the road. As we can see here, it is saying to us that the chicken performed the action. The chicken decided to cross the road, right? And then we have the passive sentence. The road was crossed by the chicken. So here we have an example of passive voice. And here we can see that the road is not performing the action, but it's receiving the action. So the road is being crossed, right? So the road was crossed by the chicken. Where crossed the chicken? On the road. So in the first sentence, we can see that the chicken was performing the action. And then in the passive sentence, the road becomes the subject, and now the subject receives the action. Okay? So we are going to continue with some examples. Passive and active structures. As we can see here, in the example A, the girl hit the ball. The girl is the subject, and she performs the action. And the predicate is hit the ball, because she hit the ball. And then we have the passive voice, and it says, the ball was hit by the girl. The ball becomes the subject, and now the subject is receiving the action, and what's the action? That is hit by the girl, right? So as we can see here, the order of the sentence change when we are using passive or active voice. And the key here is that we have to notice that the subject receives the action. It doesn't mean that the subject performs the action. That's active voice, when we are talking about a subject who performs the action, for example, the girl. Because here the subject becomes the object or the people who receives the action. Okay, in the first one the subject performs, and the second one the subject receives. In active voice the subject performs an action, and in passive voice the subject receives the action. Okay, and that's all about passive and active voice for today. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for your attention. Have a good one.